Hyrox, is it healthy?
How could you say exercise isn't healthy? You could be sat at home eating a chocolate eclair. That's not healthy. You're outdoors, you're running, you're in the gym. There's the community aspect, which is great for the mental health side of things. Obviously, you've got to be smart with your programming. You've got to make sure that you're choosing the right start point of total weekly volume, intensity, building them appropriately depending on the stage of the season, depending on that athlete. With the gym, not going too heavy too early, making sure your form's correctly. You are like extending your life by doing those kind of things, by improving your heart health, reducing your risk of heart disease, improving your strength, improving your bone density. I think it'd be stupid to say and try and scare people that Hyrox and just any exercise is bad for you. It can be done stupidly. Well, essentially, Hyrox is just lifting weights, running, ergs, improving your general strength and fitness. So yeah, it's healthy, providing it's done correctly. Obviously, too much of anything is a bad thing. It could take, for example, shin splints. It's rife in the running community. Now everybody's trying to get into running and everybody's shins hurt because just not managing the load correctly, or don't have the strength, or there's a gait or biomechanical deficiency, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's healthy, definitely.
I often think maybe the Hyrox events themselves aren't that healthy because of like the stimulus and like your adrenal system, stuff like that. But like all the other stuff that goes around that, the training, the gym, the community, the diet or whatever, would be deemed as healthy. I feel like Hyrox is like the treat. Like the actual, like the event is kind of like the treat. I don't know about you, but after event, I just feel absolutely gone.
Yeah, there's something about that though,
for a few
isn't
days.
There? Yeah, I love that. Like the amount of people that do like the CrossFit comps at our gym, they're scared before they do the competition. Afterwards, they're just on an absolute high. So like that is hard to replicate. Same with the Hyrox. People go back. Like granted, you are like putting your heart under a lot of stress, but only for an hour, like 2 or 3 times a year, kind of thing. You'll be fine unless you had an underlying like heart condition, kind of thing. There obviously is evidence behind ultra endurance athletes are at risk at times of like creating striations on the heart and negative effects by doing too much, kind of thing. But like we said before, too much of anything can be a bad thing. But yeah, I think the psychological side of things, like pushing yourself, challenging yourself, can really cross over to other aspects of life as well. Getting you out of your comfort zone is rarely a bad thing. And yeah, I'd still be all for that anyway, even with the kind of like the stress it puts on you. And afterwards, you do feel like a bag of spanners for a little bit, but just get your recovery and your nutrition right. Go for a beer, you'll be fine.
Paddy, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Jess, you okay?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for coming on. I won't start with your background, given that you've been on the show before. So if anyone wants to check out the earlier episode we did, I'll stick it in the show notes. But I would like to start with, how do we build muscle?
Yeah, something quite relatable to mine and yourselves' journey. That's been our big focal point, hasn't it, really? So to keep it simple, you need 3 things, really. You need, depending on kind of your experience, let's just say most people listening are kind of like intermediate to advanced lifters. You need to be in that calorie surplus. So you've got to be taking on more calories than you're burning off. Now, unfortunately, the more advanced you get, the smaller that calories has to be, or you'll just get fat, which is really tedious. Because when you first join the gym, you could probably have upwards of 2,000 calorie surplus and then end up using all of that for the muscle building process. But the more experienced you get, it gets less and less, to the point where you only should be really having like a 200 to 300 calorie surplus for an advanced lifter, maybe 400 to 500 for intermediate. And that's going to best support muscle growth. So the big one for most people is be in a calorie surplus. There are those people that can do, that magic ticket of lose fat and build muscle. Like my job is like an online transformation coach, shall we say, it's part of my role. And everybody says, when I say, have you got any physique goals? They'll say, yeah, lose fat, build muscle. I'm like, I'm not that good. Like, depending on who you are, if you're a beginner, I can probably do that for you. If you're detrained or you're coming back from injury or whatever, they can do it. But most people, it's like trying to catch 2 rabbits at the same time. Not going to happen. Hang your hat on one. So somebody like yourself, experienced, you need to be in a calorie surplus. So that's number 1. Number 2 is protein. Probably less important protein if you're in a surplus than you're in a deficit. Because the worry about being in a deficit is you might end up losing muscle mass. So get that protein up. And there's a big link between like the more protein you have, the less muscle mass you're going to lose, because if you're in that deficit, people often celebrate, oh, I've lost 5 kg this week. Well, a lot of that's probably water, but a lot of it with muscle as well. So you need to stop celebrating that. You need to get your protein up and go a bit more steady, but it's going off topic. But protein, you're looking at 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilogram. That generally means nothing to most people, but essentially times your body weight in kilos by 1.6 to 2.4, and that's your range of protein to have in grams. So let me just do it simply. As let's say I'm 100 kilos, I would need 160 to 240 grams of protein per day to best sport muscle mass. And then finally, the main one is hitting the gym, doing some resistance training, some strength training, and then just delving into that a little bit deeper. You'd want to be making sure that you're following a good, structured, progressive plan where you can add more weight, add more reps, etc. And then you can delve into some nuances like training intensity, so looking to progress that week on week. Make sure you're hitting the muscle twice a week, so you're going to build a bigger chest. Try and hit 5 to 10 sets on a Tuesday, 5 to 10 sets on a Friday, that kind of thing, and then you're optimizing your chance of building muscle there. So that'll be your 3 things. It'd be getting a surplus, get enough protein in, and smash the gym.
What do you think is going on? Because we're talking about surplus there, and let's give a quick example. So when you and I started working together, like my calories were about 2,000, something like that. We're now at 4,000.
Yeah.
Stomach and weight is probably about the same.
Yeah.
Where's that going?
So it's a good point. It is a really good point. It's often the hardest sell to people. And I say, just because we're upping your calories doesn't mean you're going to get fat if we're doing it correctly. Because you're hoping that you're building muscle. And I think through comparison photos so far, you are building muscle and your strength's going up. It's an annoying muscle building because it takes ages. But you are building more muscle, so that's just naturally increasing your BMR anyway. But I think although there is such thing as metabolic adaptation where you increase your calories, your body goes with you, but it kind of does level out a little bit anyway, and vice versa. I think it's more your NEAT, so it's your non-exercise activity thermogenesis that will have gone up. So you'll see now if you're watching this at home, I do this with my fingers. I don't know why I do it all the time. So that's NEAT. It's unstructured movement and fidgeting. Generally, what the research shows is those who are kind of like in a surplus or building kind of muscle have just more energy for more subconscious movement. Or it might even be conscious movement. You might just think, well, I've got loads of energy. I'm going out for 20,000 steps today. I'm going out and I'm going to train harder today. I'm pushing harder in the gym. But it's probably a combination of all the above. You're just subconsciously moving more. Then you're actually doing more steps. You're doing more resistance training, and your body's kind of adapting to what you're doing. And you don't just get fat if you do it slowly. And I've seen that time and time again. I've actually seen people, had a client recently I put on my page. He did really well, and he's pretty much an exact replica of you. He started off at like 2.4, and he's up to 4,000 now. He's actually put on 10 kg of what I think is muscle, if not more, because his body fat measures are down. Obviously, we're only using like tape measure and the scales. We don't have a DEXA scanner or whatever, but they're pretty good indicators, as well as visually. He looks pretty jacked now, so you can do it. So I think it's the combination of those factors.
Yeah, it's not ADHD, it's my calories, so I'm fidgeting.
Yeah.
It's interesting you said about like ultra runners or whatever, and a mate of mine that shout out to Liam Widrington. I don't know if you met. Oh, it's Widman now. Sorry, I don't know if you met Liam. Very good runner. I think he did. Was he 9th in the K to B a couple of years ago? And we did a Hyrox doubles together, and I ruined it because I miscounted a lap. But
oh, really? That's happening more and more, isn't it?
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it's my first Hyrox doubles. It will never happen again. That's one way to learn. It was so devastating, like psychologically, because when I realized, I was like, mate, we're going in. He was like, are we? And then we went in. I was like, and we're on the sleds, and I'm going, shit, I think he was right. And then that whole like psychological shift of just like, I've ruined it for him, all this training, and you're still trying to perform, that was a real tough moment within a Hyrox to be able to just like, or come on, get your shit together.
Yeah.
But
It is confusing, isn't it? You are absolutely broken as well. The first one I didn't. I remember on your last podcast, you asked me if I had done a Hyrox, and I hadn't at the time, and then I did Glasgow, and that was 3 laps, wasn't it? And I was just dead to the world. I don't know what was wrong with me. I don't know if I was on a bad day. But my training partner, who I did it with, I normally beat him on intervals, and I remember just whispering in his ear, "You're gonna have to help me. I'm in trouble." And he just dragged me through, and I just went in when he went in. But if I was on my own, I'd have probably just kept running around. But Berlin's just 1 lap. Oh, what jolly up that is! Like outside, just run 1 lap. So it is quite annoying that you're having to, like, I know that's pretty pathetic, but count laps, aren't you? When you are at the limit. That's the hardest thing I think I've done. That Hyrox, it was awful. But
was that your first one? That Glasgow one, then?
Glasgow was my first one. Yeah.
Like, was Les done one previous? That was your partner.
Oh, that was his first time as well. We did the sim together and everything, but he was on a good day, I was on a crap day, and he just dragged me around. Really, I was hanging on for dear life. Really.
Yeah, I feel like nothing can prepare you for a Hyrox like a Hyrox. And I mean, obviously you've got done a lot of competitions in CrossFit and stuff, but like, how do they compare? You know, that kind of like with the music and stuff. Is there anything comparable that you've ever done in competitions?
CrossFit's different. CrossFit is very much like just go and hold on for the most part. Like sometimes you have to be a bit more tactful in workouts, but most of the time they're anywhere from like a minute to like 6-7 minutes, and I rarely compete solo anymore in CrossFit. I just do, so it's like 30 seconds, give it some, like, and then 30 seconds. Whereas Hyrox, I always felt like I was pulling back and just like, you've got a long way to go here, just be under control. So it is that different kind of like aerobic to anaerobic type workout. I think a big thing for me was it's indoors, isn't it? And it was really, really hot. I had like dry mouth from the get-go. And for some reason in my head, I was saying, don't have a drink, you'll feel like bloated. And I just felt awful. And it's like 20-25 minutes in. And then I had like a little sip at one of the stations. And I generally felt like I was coming to. I just think I was just overheating a little bit. And then in Berlin, I have a little system now. It's like, get to the Hyrox station, 2 tiny sips, pour the rest on my head, make the floor slippy for everybody else, and then carry on going. Felt so much better. Granted, we ran a little bit slower in Berlin. That was like a mixed pair one, but only like we're about a minute and a half slower than doing it as a pair time. So it wasn't much different. I think we actually ran faster now. I've said that as well. So I think it definitely helped just being outdoors and cooler. So I think that would be my main take home this time, was to actually properly hydrate and use that system. It worked for me, definitely. Like every station. I don't know what you do there. Do you take a bit of water on every time?
Well, it's interesting because I remember we had this discussion about hydration, and I think we've done literally the opposite. So like, I was always obsessed because I was terrified with cramp about having a drink all the time. I had like, at one point I had like my own like little, like a blood bag. It was like this plastic, like almost like a Capri Sun clear thing, and I would make it up with like my own personal mix. So it'd be like some water in there, some beetroot juice, some electrolytes, some whatever, and I'd have that in a little bum bag going around the fucking Hyrox. What a bell end! And because I was just so terrified of like getting cramp, because it's ruined stuff for me in the past, fell races, running, whatever. And anyways, and it was only after I had a conversation with Aaron Woodman, and he was looking at my splits, and he was like, "Do you go to the water station quite a lot?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You need to stop doing that. It's ruining your Hyrox time." And I was like, and then I started looking at other people who'd done well. Actually, Liam, and I'm going to bring this back around to Liam, the ultra running, in a minute. Like, he was like, "I never go to the water." He's like, I just run through the rock zone. I get myself ready for that. And that's when I was like, right, I'm going to train without water every time I'm doing the Hyrox session. I'm just going to make sure I am hydrated. Obviously, hot day, very different. You know, that's dangerous. So I started doing that, and then obviously it's only subtle, but the last one where I did my 105 something or other, I didn't go to the station once, but don't get me wrong, my mouth was dry. However, I do take gels, and they do have electrolytes in them. So I feel like that is like giving me a little bit of something. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm just totally raw dogging it.
Yeah. I guess there is a little bit of individualization. Like normally the guidance for like hydration is 500 mil per hour, isn't it? And like I always tell my like endurance athletes, like every 20 minutes try and get 200 mil in, and you won't be too far off with that. And I just felt like it worked for me, and I will keep on doing it. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. There's definitely people who are more accustomed to that, who probably don't eat as much water. And you got a cracking time, didn't you? And if you felt good, but then you could also say, what if you'd have had a little sip of water? Would that have changed anything? Probably not. It's probably it was more just a perceived feeling of feeling just hot and overheating. I don't even know if it was psychologically or perceived. It felt like it cooled me down, and I felt a lot better for it. So there's always the science, but there's the practical application as well. So it's just seeing what works.
And then, and it's so hard to test that out, isn't it? Like with because it's so subtle. But around like 5 fucking days ago, I mentioned Liam Widrington, the ultra runner, and I was going to bring it to this point. My point being, so like if you look at ultra running and whatever, is it like 50 miles plus the definition of
ultra? I think it's just more than a marathon, isn't it? So more than 26 miles, really.
And like he would basically say to me, like he was like, Hyrox is my cheat code. It was like, I don't want to tell anyone about it because he was doing all this compromised running. It was then helping his ultra running because he didn't need to do as much miles as everyone else who was just running all the time. He was doing loads of compromised running, and then he felt like it had helped him kind of move up a level. And my point being is like the cool thing about Hyrox is it kind of forces you to get strong and do all the other stuff. Whereas to get that much from an ultra, you have to go out and fucking race for God knows how many hours, which isn't probably very good for you. But at least with Hyrox, it's a little bit more condensed. And then back to the point about, is Hyrox healthy? I also think, because you're getting just that mix of stuff, it's forcing runners to lift and it's forcing lifters to run, right? So I think it is. Even though, like you say, it fucks you after an event.
I think just when you were just talking there, I was listening as why Liam has improved his endurance. I think it's, without delving into his training program, I'd say it would be the strength. Hit the nail on the head there. But that strength is just something that most runners don't do. I have quite a few runners come to me who have picked up injuries over the years, and they're in that horrendous repetitive cycle of injuries. And then they start doing the strength training. And there's loads of studies out there on just improving your strength. Improves your running economy, so you spend less time on the floor, you're more efficient, and then you improve your times that way. So I'd say, unless he was just coming and doing like an hour's Hyrox circuit, then that obviously isn't very, well, strength-ish, I suppose, but not really. Or was he doing some actual dedicated strength training within the Hyrox training? I'd say that would have most crossover.
I think he was doing both. He was doing both. I mean, but he would specifically like talk about like, running on heavy legs or running on sled legs and stuff like that. And but like you say, there could be a correlatory effect rather than a causate, like going on there. Probably a bit of both, right?
Yeah, and then with your ultra endurance, most of the time, like if you're doing the Lakeland 100, is that this week actually? I think that might be this week. Lakeland 100, that's obviously over a couple of days. Yeah. So like you need to be not just good over that first day. Can you like have a little nap or not even nap? Just get cracking and do it for 2 days. Compromise maybe is just a little bit of a shortcut rather than having to go out back-to-back days. It's like almost like simulating that quickly. So there might be some crossover there. To be fair,
but it's like if you do like a 50-meter sled push in a pro weight and then go and run, that probably feels akin to like, I don't know, 8 kilometers into a half marathon or something, or whatever, because you're starting to like feel that fatigue.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. They could probably do a study on that, but yeah, I imagine it's that similar feeling. Similar for triathletes who do the brick training, where you do like you practice getting off the bike into the run. That's what brick is, where you do the back-to-back disciplines, and that feeling of going from bike to run. It's like skanky leg. Your legs just don't work for a little bit, so you've got to replicate that. So there probably is some merit for doing that kind of training, really, definitely.
What do you think about like concurrent days training, like building up either days of running or days of conditioning sessions?
So That's a good question. You often see people say like you should never run back-to-back days, but too blanket a statement that you need context. Like if you looked at a marathon runner, they train back-to-back in the same day, let alone back-to-back days. They'll get up, do an 8-mile run in the morning, and then in the evening they'll be doing the tempo efforts or intervals or another steady state run or whatever. So it's just all about who you're working with, what their start point is, and building them up. I think depending on the stage of the season as well, say if we take Hyrox again, in that first phase of the season, it's going to be more like skill work, strength work, base running. And then as you get close to the event, you go more specific. And Hyrox is largely a running race. So you might increase your running mileage and you can't just keep adding. You probably then decrease your strength side of things a little bit. So you then might end up running back-to-back days. And as long as you're clever with your programming, you don't do 10 by 1 kilometer intervals Monday and then 10 by 2 kilometers intervals Tuesday. You do your intervals one day and then just an easy run the next day. I'll flip it around, whichever works. Then I think there's some merit to doing that, but it's very a case by case point of what level they're at and what stage of the season they're at, and can you build them to do it. But from a concurrent training perspective, like usually we're trying to have at least 6 to 24 hours between stimuli to avoid that interference. So you do your strength work, have at least 6 hours off, do your running, and then probably ideally, like we're doing for yourself, is doing them on separate days. So we're almost going like a conditioning day and then having the opportunity to refeed, refuel, sleep, 24 hours off, and then you've got your strength day, and we alternate conditioning and strength. And I do that with my own programming now, whereas I used to be more like CrossFit, which is like you do a load of strength stuff and you finish with a short WOD. But now I'm really enjoying, and the other people in my gym at Industry 13, we have like this group. It's just called the Paddy Plans. It's just like they do what I do, and we have about 15 people on that, and we do big 40-minute conditioning pieces on Tuesday and Thursday. The rest is strength, and we've moved away from that CrossFit style. But everyone's enjoying it, and people are getting good results. Like the lifting's coming on a long way, and we hadn't been exposed to that kind of longer style conditioning. It seems to be working nicely. But to get back to your original question on the consecutive running, I think it is fine to do so. You just got to be smart with how you program and structure it.
What about like, I guess with like running and Hyrox training specifically, you probably look at it a bit like a pyramid. So you got your zone 2 at the bottom, and then you're kind of looking to move up those training, those heart rate zones. At what point, like, as you get to the top, like what are like the shortest intervals that you would recommend doing? Like, is there any point doing like 100 meters or do you like cut it off at like 400 or something? Like, what about that side of things?
Well, that's a good question, really. I think it would be, I don't think there'd be a limit to that. It would just be more like making sure you're doing enough to get the heart rate up, to get time in VO2 max if you were doing kind of short intervals like that. But there is research that's done like 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off kind of running, which it's called MAS, running maximal aerobic speed. I use that a lot with the rugby lads, actually. And in 15 seconds, you might get like 70 meters for the props, and the backs might get 80 to 90 meters kind of thing. And that's been shown to improve like VO2 max. So was steady state stuff. So was 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. It's like all roads have progressed can kind of improve that. But I think maybe so those would kind of lead to improvements in VO2 max. But were you meaning 100 meters is in like sprints, like actually doing 100 meter like speed work?
Well, there's two parts to the question. Yeah. So yes and no. Just in general, forgetting actual sprinting, just kind of like distance, like is that? But then my second part was, is there any point doing sprinting for something like Hyrox?
Oof, that is a good question. I think so. Yeah, I think so, because it can just improve like that neuromuscular side of things, force output, can improve your technique and your explosivity. So I don't think I'd do too much of it, but I think it's important that we still, and even if it's more of an injury prevention thing, like just bulletproofing the hamstrings by exposing them to speed makes sense. I'm not sure how much it would directly cross over because of the aerobic nature to it, but I think from like a bulletproof perspective, then it would be a useful tool really to do so, but not too much. You often see runners, and I've always had qualms with this, and I don't know what's right or wrong, but they do like an 8-mile run, and then they do 800-meter stride out as quick as they can. And I don't think when I did my strength and conditioning degree, that was not something that was ever talked about. I think that's just something runners do. But I don't know if it makes sense, because speed's all about freshness and quality. So if I'm programming for a team sport athlete and they wanted to improve their like 5, 10, 20-meter sprint speed, it's the nicest session you'll ever do. It's like you do 10 by 10 meter sprints with like 60 seconds rest in between. Like it's 10 meters and 60 seconds. It's a jolly up. You get loads of rest, but it's about pure quality. Whereas Hyrox, it's more that aerobic side of things. So I'm not sure. I think it could bulletproof, but I'm not sure it'd be the pinnacle of my programming.
All right. So speed is more muscular than aerobic, and more like the power that can be generated through the muscle. Is that right?
Yeah, you've got like your 3 energy systems. So that first one's the ATP PC system. That's like 10 seconds. So that's essentially what you'll be using for sprint work. Then it moves into like glycolysis or lactic acid system. That's your 10 seconds up to 90 seconds, 2 minutes. And anything after that is your aerobic training, 2 minutes and above. So like speed is just that ATP PC system where it doesn't really require just carbohydrates, fats. It's just mainly using phosphocreatine that's stored in the muscles. And that would be your main thing. So it doesn't have really an aerobic component to it other than the recovery between sets.
Is there a limit? Like how is there a limit to sprinting? Like
Definitely. It's quality. It's low volume. I've seen some horrendous like speed sessions from coaches. Like, because I've come from a team sport background, so it's all about microdosing. So you would do the volume, you'd be doing like 150, 200 meters in total for the session. So it's like 10 by 10 meters as 100 meters, and then you might do like 10 by 5 meters as 50. That's 150 meters in the whole session. But like, I remember one of the Raiders lads was like, I found this speed session, and it's like 5 times 400, and that isn't speed because you're having to go slower. It's incomplete rest times, and it's becoming aerobic. So that isn't actual speed. That would improve your general fitness, improve your 5K, stuff like that. But it wouldn't improve your max sprint speed, because every sprint needs to be 95% of your max speed and above. It's just so different. And you don't see anybody doing that really anymore. Like, if you don't see many people like around here, there's loads of people who play football every Saturday, like rugby, and they should have a dedicated speed session as part of their warm-ups, but nobody really does it because nobody knows how. Like, the coaches aren't going to know what to do. I thought about doing like a seminar thing for like all the coaches in the area, like bringing them in and teaching them how to do a proper warm-up, and then some speed and agility drills afterwards. And I think the players will get so much from that, just like 20 minutes at the start of, because only train once, twice a week, do that, and then do all your rugby. Like, speed kills in most sports. You see it all the time. Whoever's quicker is probably going to dominate. Like, so it's an important skill to train, really.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I was never very good at football. I enjoyed playing it, and I used to do a lot of five-a-side, like in my mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And I was never quick. I would never describe myself as quick. And like, but then now I'm like, fucking hell, get me back on the pitch. Like, because I've like developed, because I've been doing strength training and obviously like done some of this sprint work or whatever. To be fair, I think by accident, when I was working with Matty, he used to give me these like whatever 200 meters or whatever, and I just thought it was all sprinting. So I used to be just like sprinting down the canal and stuff. Yeah. But I think it's amazing like how much, like how little you probably need to do to like tap into that like speed that you actually do have, or that you can get. What about structuring like training for like team sports? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just to touch on the last one you said as well, and I think it could be two things, your speed one as well. Like, it could be the fact that you're very fit now. Like, your 5K is 18 something, is it? Are you in it? So like,
yeah, last time I checked it, whether I could do it now.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure, I'm hanging on to that. 18, 20, 18, 27. Who's counting?
Yeah. So, like, you're coming up against like 5-a-side players who are not going to be fit. Some of them will be. So it could just be the fact that your repeated sprint ability is better. They're fatiguing, you're not fatiguing. So you might not have improved your sprint speed, but you are able to repeatedly produce high intensity efforts where they're just dying off. But like you said, you have been doing a little bit of speed work accidentally, and you are a lot stronger now. Those things are going to cross over. So it could be that. But in terms of structuring the training week, so normally you'd base it on like a Saturday to Saturday. So you'd have like Saturday as game day. The rules are generally you create a lot of muscle damage, and that muscle damage is still present for 48 hours normally. So if I was working with a footballer, I would probably do something like Saturday is game day, Sunday is recovery. So that might be like swimming, cycling, foam rolling, but mainly it's just sleep, nutrition, hydration. They're your big three for recovery. Monday, because it's a lower body dominant sport, I'd get them in the gym and do upper body strength work. You can see a classic S&C session because it'll look like 3 push-pull supersets. It'll be like pull-ups into jammer press. It'll be dumbbell bench into rows, like that kind of thing. Like that's a proper strength conditioning session there. Tuesday, legs should be recovered because that's the 72 hours. Then I do a lower body strength session. If it's in season, I'd probably be microdosing it. So just a couple of sets per exercise. Like people always think, should I go lighter and more reps? Probably not. That'll create more muscle damage. So 3 sets of 10 will create a lot more muscle damage than 4 sets of 2. So I would stick with go heavy, keep the strength, don't lose that. I'd probably do legs Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'd do probably either an extra upper body session if they loved the gym or a power session. Normally you do upper lower power. That's your classic. Like Premier League footballers, Premiership rugby players, they're probably doing upper lower power. The Lions that are away on tour now, you see them in the gym, they'll be doing an upper lower power probably on that week, but it'd be really short and sharp, specific. Because the good thing about power training, powers like your plyometrics, med ball work, Olympic lifting, box jump, stuff like that, it doesn't actually leave you sore the next day, and the research supports that. So power you can do, you could play again the next day. Power you could do in the morning if you had any balls and you trained for it, but nobody does that because it's just like, what if you got injured, you get blamed. But strength does create 2-day DOMs. So like you wouldn't do strength on a Friday with a game on a Saturday, but you could do a short, sharp power session on the Friday before a game Saturday. And then just repeat really. Rugby might be a bit different because your body might be sore. So I might go Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday there, but you just work with who's in front of you there. But for team sports, that's all you can really fit in because you're tired really. And you often get double game weeks as well, like Saturday, Tuesday games, and then it becomes a real fine art, to be honest. And it gets a bit more complicated there.
Mm. So how do you define like power training? Is it to do with like not having that eccentric or?
No, it's more to do with the load. So like power training is like really explosive, fast movements. And it depends on the exercise. They've done studies on like where peak power occurs. So for like a high pull, which is like a power clean where you just go up there, it's like 70%. So you'd be programming around 70%. Whereas with a trap bar jump, have you done those before? Stand in a trap bar and jump with it?
No.
So that kind of thing, you go a little bit lighter. So you have to understand kind of like, it's called the force velocity curve. You've got like high force, low velocity movements at one end and then high velocity, low force at the other end. You kind of pick exercises on that curve, but usually it's like anywhere from 20 to 70%. Rep scheme similar to strength, like low. So like 1 to 5 reps, that kind of thing. Maybe a little bit more on some of the plyos. But yeah, it's more about just picking exercise that you can move and move quickly. But it's often done badly, really. Like people do like a bench press where they go quick, they bench quickly, but you'll notice that my velocity at the end is 0. So I must have been slowing down from half that movement. So for that to be truly power, I have to release, I have to throw and let go. And then obviously I'm chucking a barbell, but you'll see them bench throws. You either get somebody to catch it or you just catch it yourself. But it's a bit of a, usually do that.
Oh, I see. So, right. So if at any point during the repetition it slows down, then it's not power training.
No. So, no, exactly. So I do jammer throws where, like a jammer press, like nice and straight. You throw it and get your partner to catch. That's power. Because even if I'm going like that and it looks fast, my terminal velocity is 0 at the end. So not really power. So you have to be smart with your programming and allow that follow through.
Okay, interesting. All right, while we're into like geeky stuff,
Mm-hmm.
At what point does an exercise become catabolic? And I'll give you some context, because I'm thinking, like, we were just talking about sprinting, and at some point it like will cross over into that just aerobic. And then where I sort of went down this train of thought is I was thinking about the rower, and I was like, can you build muscle on the rower? And like, well, if you put it on the high damper setting, and at what point?
All right.
At what point would it become? Because I presume if you just pull it really hard and did like sets of 8, I don't know. So there's the context, a little bit of a blab. What do you think? What do you know?
Yeah. Well, like catabolism is a process. So like it's a process of breaking down, and it comes kind of hand in hand with anabolism, which is building back up again. So like if you're in the gym and exercising, that is a catabolic process, because I'm breaking down fats and carbs for energy. I'm breaking down the muscle fiber to allow it to grow back again. So like anything you really do in the gym is catabolic, and then which is fine, that's natural. And then you've got, providing you give it enough rest and recovery, you've got that anabolism. So where it goes wrong is if you like overtrain, it becomes too catabolic, and then you can't recover, and then you increase your stress hormone, cortisol, blah blah blah. Then it can become negative. But like exercise itself is catabolic. In terms of rowing, does that build muscle? So the leading researcher really in muscle building is called Brad Schoenfeld, American, very, very good, pumps out research on hypertrophy. I felt like that's a cool area of work to work in. He knows everything about that. He's created a few books on it now. And he's hypothesized that there's 3 ways or 3 mechanisms of building muscle. One is metabolic accumulation, which I always like to think is like the pump. So you're like creating metabolites in the blood. The number 2 would be like muscle tension. So like that time and tension kind of thing. And then the other one would be muscle damage. So like breaking down the muscle fat. I don't think rowing would tick off all 3 of those boxes, because it's not really a large eccentric component. There would be metabolic accumulation, I suppose, because you are rowing and then you're building metabolites, and there's not really much damage either there, to be honest. So
you get a bit of a pump on the row. Maybe that's bad technique from me, but
well, just like because the muscle is working, it is going to increase hydrogen ions, and that's going to like lead to release of growth hormone, that kind of thing. So I don't think it ticks off all those 3 boxes. It'd be probably tough to progressively overload. You know where it would work? It's probably context again. In beginners, they might see improvements in muscle mass, but for experienced people, because it's largely an aerobic action, it's probably only going to lead to the development of your type 1 smaller muscle fibers rather than your type 2 bigger, more powerful muscle fibers. I see what you mean in terms of like whacking the damper up and almost doing a row. That technically would, if it felt the same as doing like a dumbbell incline row, like that slow tension, then that will build muscle, because that's ticking off the boxes of muscle damage. There's tension, and it's going to create a pump on over time in that muscle. But if you were just rowing normally, it's more aerobic and not really hypertrophic. It's not ticking off those 3 mechanisms, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, it's something I think about all the time. Just you've got these like weird little things that you just think, and I'm just like, what is it? Like, at what point? Because like, let's do the damper 10, and we're like rowing like we would a row, yeah, and then. So you go, okay, well, up to like maybe 30 repetitions, we might be building muscle. But at some point, it's going to cross over, isn't it? Like, into like, that's definitely not building muscle. And that's what I'm fascinated by. Like, yeah, what is it? And what is that crossover, and why?
Yeah, I think I would always just come back to those 3 mechanisms: the tension, the muscle damage, and the metabolic. And if it's not ticking all 3 of them off, it's probably not likely. And you need that ability to overload it, and like you're only really going to be able to add more reps on damper 10 to that, aren't you? It's just like the intensity just wouldn't be there. So I can see definitely the thought process, but no, not really.
Okay, related. So can you build muscle without the eccentric?
Just doing the concentric?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be able to. It's a good question, actually. Because most studies now show that the muscle is built in the stretch. So the stretches now, like everyone loves the word lengthened partials. Are you doing your lengthened partials? So when you do your pull-ups, if you're not going all the way down to the bottom, you're not getting that full range of motion that capitalizes on the eccentric. So you're not getting the full benefit on it. But that doesn't mean that the kind of like the shortening aspect isn't important. So you could just do the shortening aspect. So if you did like, you'd have to do, it'd be weird to do that. So say you're doing the bench press, you'd start from like a block on your chest, press it up, and then you'd have to let go, have somebody lower it down for you, or rack it, and then go again. I think that still would contribute muscle, but definitely not as effectively as, because you're still up pushing a load, you're able to progressively overload, there's tension, there would still be muscle damage there. So I think that still would build muscle, but definitely not as effectively as the full movement. Where that can be quite helpful is when you're trying to mitigate fatigue. So you could use that as a tool, because the eccentric does lead to more muscle damage. So if you were trying to keep somebody fresh and you just did the concentric component of exercises, like a sled push, like it's pushing, isn't it? So it's the concentric. So there's not much muscle damage because the leg, as it swings back, is unloaded. So that's a good example there. And it still would contribute to muscle growth, but the muscle damage isn't as good. So it comes back to those three mechanisms we talked about.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the sled before you said it, because it's a really good example, isn't it? Those heavy lengths.
Yeah.
Probably not giving you massive legs, but still a great strength exercise.
Yeah, it still would contribute because you're taking off the principle of progressive overload there, aren't you? And it's still going to lead to metabolic accumulation. There's tension. There's probably not the same muscle damage as something that has an eccentric contraction.
I think I've seen MMA fighters doing that concentric only bench press. Okay. Do you think they're doing like shit power training, or like, or are they just trying to not go overboard on the muscle? Like, what's going on there, do you think?
Yeah, context would be king there. You'd have to delve into the full training program rather than just looking at snippets. But I imagine it would be fatigue control for them if they had like a fight coming up and they wanted to just maintain strength without adding any excess muscle damage. Then it would just be that, because like the bench press isn't gonna, like a punch. The bench press doesn't cross over to a punch, really. Like if you look at the research on where force is generated in a punch, it comes from the ground up. It's a whole body movement, and that's where core training comes in. How do you get force from your legs to your fist? That is proper core training, really. So I don't think they'd be doing it to cross over that. Probably just maintenance of strength and reducing fatigue a little bit, I would say.
If you're anything like me, you're probably good at starting habits, but fail to stick to them over the long term. There's probably one or two, whether that be going to the gym or taking the dog for a walk, but struggle to maintain others around career, relationship, or life goals. If you're a long-term listener of the podcast, this won't be the first time you've heard me talk about habits and leveraging public accountability. That's why I created InDeep, the tool that helps you build healthy habits and stick to them. After creating your free account, you'll be given your own personal public profile link, which you can share with your friends, your family, coach, or followers. And when someone clicks that link, you'll be given a real-time notification that someone is watching your habits. I can't tell you how much of a motivator it is when you're stuck in a procrastination cycle and this little eyeball pops up with a number next to it. My productivity has gone through the roof since I started using it. It's that effective. Luckily for you, I'm giving away 100 free VIP months to my podcast listeners. There's no credit card required. Head to indeep.com/podcast. That's deep with two I's, INDIIP.com/podcast, or follow the links in the episode description below. Let's start crushing our habits today. Slightly off topic, well, very on topic, but very micro detail. Bench press. When you've got your back on the bench, something I've been wondering about, are you looking to like push your back into the actual bench, so like you're pushing all your skin against the bottom of it, or are you looking to like create like a bit of an arch?
Yeah, it's a good point. I've never, because I've come from like a team sport background, I'm always thinking like injury prevention. So I'm always thinking like neutral spine. And I've never cued an arch, but I think optimally to get more load on the bench, then an arch is fine. I think any kind of like, it probably opens up the question that is quite popular now with physios is like, what is good form? I was on this conversation with somebody, they're like, what is good form? You couldn't pick up an Atlas stone with a neutral spine. Like, as long as you brace, then that probably is good form, and then you're building up appropriately. It's like they've looked, I remember reading a study once, and it's like someone's back was like that, and everyone was like, yeah, that's a neutral spine. And then they had the electrodes on each end, and it was like 70% of neutral. It just looked neutral, but it was nowhere near. So like what we even perceive as neutral might not be anyway. But I think mainly with the bench press, like obviously it comes from the feet. It's getting the feet and the quads in the right position. So getting that flex on the quad, bringing those feet in nice and close, allowing the scapula to still move through their like full range of motion. But I think that slight arch is fine, providing you're accustomed to it, providing you're braced properly and you build load. It is something that I've never really coached because I don't often program bench press loads. I either go through cycles with it, put it in sometimes because it is fun. I've added it into my own program again. But obviously there's the increased risk of shoulder niggles with that. So a lot of people just switch out to dumbbells. They prefer that. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's not something I've really coached too much. I see a lot of like strong men coaches and powerlifting coaches, and they would cue that because I think it's more optimal to lift more weight. Really, you get that better use of leg drive. But yeah, well, what's your thoughts on it? What do you typically tend to do?
Well, you know me, I'm always fucking changing how I do stuff.
Yeah.
Well, because I was doing that like leg, like toes under, which Jordan Hammond showed me, and then I've kind of gone back to the flat foot, and then just recently I've kind of like been trying to really like push my back so it is totally flat, and that's been feeling better. But I'm just curious, so I was like, oh, is that optimal?
I guess it's what's your goal. Like your goal is not really who cares what you can bench press? Your goal is more functional, isn't it? It's like Hyrox performance, getting to world is your goal. If your bench press goes up from 60 to 65, it's nice, isn't it? And shows we're heading the right way, but we're not looking for like optimal load lifted. We're just looking to get stronger in that horizontal push time and being well balanced from a like push-pull perspective. So I don't think for you, it's something I'd really home in. I think I'd just choose the safest technique for you, where you can still build on, because you're going to build on whatever technique you choose. But I'd always be wary of that, the risk reward kind of things with that.
Yeah. I fucking love a bench press. I think most lads love a bench press, don't they?
Back in the day.
Yeah. I think going from the dumbbell and then going back into the bench is quite nice, because you've obviously built a little bit of like I guess stability.
Definitely.
And I definitely noticed, and I said to you, didn't I? I was like, the bar is like the straightest I've ever had it. Because when I used to watch it, it was like fucking all over the spot.
It's imbalances, isn't it? Like usually right-handed dominant, right hand starts doing a lot of the work. You see people on the bench press, right arm comes up first, left arm follows. The dumbbells corrects that. And it's a good way of doing that. I like single arm bench press as well, just to bring in a little bit more core where you're really having to brace through it. But yeah, I think dumbbells just naturally starts to correct imbalances that crosses over nicely to the barbell side of things. And then dumbbells get the better benefit because bigger range of motion. So the problem with the barbell bench is you can't go lower than your chest, whereas the dumbbells you can go lower than your chest and get that bigger stretch, which is probably going to lead to more muscle growth. But as a caveat to that, the harder to progressively overload. Barbells are well easier, and you can just keep putting more weight on the side. Dumbbells are a bit more clunky. So pros and cons to everything, really.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like you probably like picture like the muscle building and bench press and like blokes all in like this one kind of like thing, but then ironically bench press probably isn't the best for muscle growth, maybe good for strength, but like you say, it's going to be your flies and dumbbell bench press and all that sort of stuff where you're getting that stretch.
It's a popular topic that you see. You follow Jeff Nippard, do you?
I'd see stuff occasionally, but like not massively.
He does a post on this. I think that's his thing at the moment. It's like ranking exercises, and this is A tier, this is D tier, or whatever. And he would say something similar, like your dumbbells allow for more range of motion, pecs as well, big range of motion in the stretch, but the barbell brings in that progressive overload. So he probably would put them all in a relatively similar tier because of pros and cons. Whereas like a dumbbell touching bench press, pretty poor because small range of motion, you don't get that big eccentric. So it generally comes down to, can you progressively overload it easily? and can you get that big stretch and those lengthened partials that everybody's obsessed with at the moment? Probably a good exercise.
Yeah. What about deep squats? Like, there seems to be a little bit of, some people are like, you don't want to go lower than parallel, and some people are like, get your, what is it, ass to grass?
Yeah.
Ass to grass. What do you think about that?
Context as always. I'm very on the fence with these things. It's terms of like, I would have to just work with the person in front of me again if they don't have the mobility to get into a full squat. And if we're talking about back squatting, it's rare to see a good back squat, to be honest, these days. I probably prefer teaching people, like on your plan, front squats, providing they've got the front rep mobility there. It's just a naturally better looking squat. Well, context here, and I would generally like to get people to go into a full range of motion, then it's increasing muscle activity. From a Hyrox perspective, wall balls, you have to break parallel. I have seen people's wall balls improve significantly from just doing good quality full range of motion squats. If that involved being on a slant board to start with to get them lower, then that's great. But it is one of those ones where pelvis, you often see people's pelvis tilt massively, like posterior tilt comes underneath, or they start anterior tilted, they stick their ass out like duck ass. And it's never really wise to load the spine in that way, even though I just said before what is good form. So I guess providing your brace and stuff, but still, I'd still be encouraging neutral spine there. So most people, full range would be good. Just pick the right start point, whether it's bodyweight squats and then going on to goblet squats, front squats, back squats, that way. Just choose the right start point and build along your continuum. Where it like might change is, say, Greg Rutherford. Do you remember was he a long jumper? Just had a mind blank there. But
Don't know.
He's you remember Olympic Games like 4 years ago, ginger guy. He did there was videos of him doing like 300 kilo mini squats and everyone was slagging him off. But like when you're sprinting, you don't go into a deep squat. It's a small, like, with a knee flexion. So, like, you're not going through big range. And there's studies out there that show that quarter squats can improve sprint performance. So his coaches are doing that, loading that up and doing tiny little squats to improve that. So there's context there. So it depends what the athlete's goal was, what the athlete's mobility was. But, yeah, I think that at most stages it'd be good to be able to teach somebody to do a full range of motion squat because we want to be strong through ranges. That's where injuries occur. That's what mobility means. It's all well and good that you touch your toes, but you've got to be strong through that range or you'll get injured. So that's where mobility differs to flexibility.
Yeah, I suppose like in terms of like longevity rather than like athletic training, being able to sit in a deep squat and then shift some load in that position, especially if you're like living in Asia and after shit like that with, I don't know, a fucking cow on your back or something.
Yeah. It's true. I had a client long suffering with back pain and his doctor was like, if you look at the people of the Philippines, they spend a lot of the day sat in a deep squat and the problem with this is probably GP services out there aren't very good, so they can't report them much, but they've got very little reported back pain out there, whereas pretty much everybody in the UK has back pain. We're stiff in the hips, so the back's taking on more weight, whereas they're very, very comfy sat in the bottom of that squat. That Squat University, I think he's a good coach. I like his stuff online.
Yeah, he's good.
He encourages you to build to like, can you sit in a deep squat for 8 minutes? I can probably sit in a deep squat for about 8 seconds before my hip screams at me.
Oh, that's a good challenge. We could, I feel a challenge incoming.
If you do that, like you've got to like start 30 seconds, build up to it, like do 5 sets of 30 seconds, and it will improve your hip mobility and everything, won't it? But you just got to pick the right start point.
I reckon I could do 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I shouldn't have said that to you.
Love a challenge. When you like put something in the program, it's like target time, and I'm like, hello.
Dangerous.
I'm definitely fucking going below that. There's no other option.
Yeah, but I usually test them out. It depends what day I'm on, and then depends. Like I know that you're fitter than me, so I have to sometimes think, well, I did it in 33. I reckon he'll go sub 30, but that might just ruin your day because you didn't beat me by 3 minutes. Like it just depends. I try and give you like a challenging time, but I don't want to ruin your day thinking like, oh, I've not done it now, I'm a failure. When you're not, I'm just trying to push you and give you something to focus on, kind of thing. But we're all different, aren't we?
No, I like it. I like it. I like being pushed because Yeah, I think knowing where your limit is a real, I guess, skill, but it's a hard one to find because so many times you're like, oh, that's my limit, and you don't
Yeah,
realize it. And a good example of this is like going to failure on exercises, and like how many times like I put in like my notes, I'm like reps in reserve 2 to 3, and then my final set will be like fucking 15 more reps, and I'm like,
yeah,
I was nowhere near.
yeah.
Like,
Very good point.
so yeah, when do you think? So if we take like a typical training block, so like you do 4-week blocks.
Yes.
We spoke about this a little bit the other week. So you've got like strength based stuff, which is in the lower repetitions, and then you've got the more hypertrophy reps, like north of like 8, 10 upwards, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, when should we be going to failure? Because I'll give some context for people who are listening. So we were doing week 4, which is deload week,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, I'll make sure I don't go too heavy on this because we were doing strength based. I think it was front squats. And then you're like, no, it's the other way around. Because we're doing less volume, we want to have the intensity.
Yeah.
Can we talk a bit about that? And like, when should we be going to failure? When should we be going heavy in and around those blocks?
Yeah,
In and around A
it's a
block.
good question. I like it's called summated microcycle. So you build volume for 3 weeks, and then you pull back volume. So you might go 4 sets in week 1 to 3, or you might go 4, 5, 6 sets 1 to 3, and then you just pull it back to 2 sets. But the intensity doesn't drop. Like we were saying before, intensity is not a massive driver of fatigue. It's more the volume that can get you. So you can keep intensity quite high there. And I often do like a little bit of a testing week in week 4. If it was like, that's not optimal because you should have a deload to then test if you wanted results. But I like to just see roughly where I am before starting a new block, knowing that in competition, I would be tapered in and I would be actually fully fresh. But I think for most people and for the most part, you don't really need to go to failure too often. Like it does depend, but as a caveat to that, you should only really have 1 to 4, should we say, reps in reserve. So the theory is that within any working set, there's only 5 reps that contribute to muscle growth. So like if you stop with 5 or 6 reps in reserve, no muscle growth. Like you're not going to contribute to muscle growth because you haven't got close enough. So you have to get to failure. And that's why, and the research is very supportive of this, you can build muscle on 8 reps, 12 reps, 30 reps. It's proximity to failure that's more important. So if you're doing like a 30 rep set, as long as you're the 25 to 30 you're challenging, you're on to winner. In the 8 rep set, as long as like the 4 or the 5 to 8 you're challenging, you're on to winner. And that's kind of how you need to think rather than just like, this is 8 to 12, this is your hypertrophy rep scheme, which it used to be when I was in uni. It used to be 8 to 12 is the hypertrophy rep scheme, but it's not. It can be anything. But I'd probably dial it down a bit more in terms of like, if you're a beginner, probably don't really need to go to failure at all. An advanced athlete to break through some plateaus, yeah, do so. You hit the nail on the head before. Most people don't know what failure is. So how can I ask them to go 2 reps in reserve? They don't know what failure is. Like you said, you thought you were near it, you did 15 more. That's a really good opportunity for you to go to failure because then you know what it is and you can adjust your benchmark. So that would be a good time. I think with isolation exercises, dumbbell curls, tricep push down, risk is minimal. Get a pump on, give it some. You can go to failure more often. With a barbell back squat, I'd be staying away from it more because of the safety element and it's not really needed. It's more strength focused. So I wouldn't be doing it as much there. So isolation, go closer to failure, compound, stay a little bit away. Beginners, stay away. Advanced, good to do so. And then just as a learning curve, everybody at some point should go there so they actually know what failure is, kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think. Do you think there's ever like? Let's take mine as an example. Do you think there's ever like a case to go like, okay, let's go for some like heavy ones to try and get some like true 1 RMs?
Yeah, do an actual testing day. Usually, I do say to people, training is testing. So, like the training itself will predict what your testing is. So then you can. We use the FitR app, don't we? And it's got like that nice, funky, predictive reps to 1 rep max percentage equation thing now, hasn't it? So you can just
Mm-hmm.
use that, but it's still an estimate. So at some point, it would be good to do some testing. But you always have to think pros and cons. We're right in the thick of it now. If you do testing, you're generally going to have to taper in for it. So there's a little bit of training lost. You're generally going to be fatigued afterwards. So there's training lost. And it's just like, is it really going to tell us much different than what we already know? So that would be how my brain would work with that.
Yeah, and it's not like we're doing strongman or
No,
anything like that, is it?
no. We're just looking for that overload, aren't we? So we can just build strength, put on muscle mass, because you're going into the pro category where, like, you know, if you look at the stats, they're typically, what are the pro athletes? I think we looked at this the other day, that 83, 84 kilo on average. So there's a little bit of size does matter in the pro kind of category there, just because of the weights are obviously heavier, but they're obviously not 90 to 100 kilo. Some of them might be just because of the running demand is still high, isn't it? But strength and muscle mass play a bit more of a role in the pro category, definitely.
All right, let's talk about protein quality. Something I've been thinking about. So, you know, you were saying before, is it 1.6 to 2.2?
Well, yeah, it could be that. 2.4 I usually use, yeah.
Yeah. And I often wonder, like, could you get away with the 1.6 if it was like all animal proteins?
Yeah, it's a good question. You could generally get away with a 1.6 for most people. Like, it kind of like curves off the usefulness. So, like, if we're on about building muscle, like once you get to 1.6, especially if you're in a surplus, the benefits after that get a lot less. So for most people, I would just be like, try and hit 1.6 grams per kilogram, because a lot of people who come on plan with me, they track for the first week and then they hit like 70 grams of protein. So they're probably lower than the RDA, which is 0.8 grams. And then to get them to go maybe up to 220 grams, if that was 2.4, that's a big jump. So it might just be like, right, let's try to get to 120, then 130, and we'll just build. Because I think if you go too big at anything with nutrition, it's just like the gut probably isn't going to thank you. So building slow makes sense. So yeah, I think 1.6 gives you a good bang for your buck. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm probably now having less protein than I've ever had. And
Really?
yeah, like I think I've always just been like, because I was kind of always a little bit like low carb kind of cult.
Yeah.
Carbs are bad, you know, fucking Joe Rogan, or like all the carnivore, like always lent into that side of thing, you know, and you know, carnivore, like what's the word, like caveman-y stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think always I just kind of like over-indexed on protein, high protein, lots of egg, lots of steak, whatever. So now we're into this, like, because I've been really tracking my macros. Most of the times now, if I get the macros wrong, I've gone too high on protein. So, and especially now I've added in breakfast, which is a new thing, apart from not today, because I'm podcasting. So
Well, yeah, I bet early.
all my fucking oats in my belly, I won't be able to think. But, and what's the question, Jason? And yeah, so I really noticed, I'm like, actually, like, yeah, when you're eating that many calories, it doesn't seem as much of a thing. But I was thinking, because of this, like, okay, I'm going to start having breakfast. I believe there's like this leucine trigger, which is it 2.5 to 3 grams? Is that right?
Nice. Yes. How do you know that? You're on Google.
Because I'm a geek.
Yeah.
I think I heard it on a podcast ages ago, and then I looked it up recently, because I've been starting my day, and I'm like, I can't really be asked with eggs, so I've been having oats, and then I've been trying to figure out, like, is there enough leucine in here to like kickstart? Because I might as well, rather than just going. I know that, I guess what you would probably say is like total protein is more important.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. Because it's rare. If you hit the total protein, you're not gonna hit the leucine as well. And especially when you're not like a vegan, vegetarian, you're eating animal-based protein, there's a higher leucine content in that. Like in the chicken breast, you get your 2 to 3 anyway, don't you? So like it's all about stimulating muscle protein synthesis, and that being higher than degradation, and over time that should lead to building muscle. And it does seem that leucine is a trigger for that. I remember there was a study where they looked at, like, it was like I think it was losing at 10% of total calories, 20%, 30%. And it only really made an effect negatively if you were on the lower end of that percentage. But for yourself, because you're getting like 200 grams of protein, it didn't seem to make any difference. I think for you, it's not something I'd worry about. I think if you are a vegan, it's probably worth getting some kind of supplement and some kind of protein powder in there. I was probably listening to a similar podcast. They were talking about potato protein and pea protein, just to make sure that you are getting that leucine, because, you know, plant-based proteins don't have as good a bioavailability as animal-based protein, often because like the protein is wrapped in something that in fiber usually, so it doesn't actually get the full effect. There's less amino acids, less leucine, less of the branch chain amino acids. So they have to be a little bit more conscious of that, but it's still quite common. There's lots of bodybuilders out there that are plant-based. I've had clients who are plant-based who've built muscle mainly just from daily protein up, really, and everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah, I think the reason I was thinking about it was like, I don't want to just have like a bowl of porridge, which like, I didn't want it to be like carb heavy. Does that make sense? So I was trying to like make sure there was enough protein, and then that's got delved me on this like fucking leucine thing. But I suppose like you hear a lot that essential amino acids or branch chain amino acids are like a total waste of money. So I guess there would be an example there, perhaps, where if you were able to spot that maybe your leucine count could be low, like you say, vegan or whatever, then there's potentially a use case for it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the branch chain amino acids, if they're in isolation, then yeah, it doesn't seem to contribute to muscle growth. It's more to do with that total protein content, making sure you're getting enough of that in the body really is the most important thing. And then it's once you've hit your total daily protein, it still makes sense to then split up into smaller doses. But that study came out recently, didn't it? Where it used to be 30, you got 30 grams, don't you? Every meal, 30 grams to keep stimulating protein synthesis throughout the day. But they showed that 100 grams led to increases in protein synthesis, and it lasted for a long period of time. So it's not as important as you think, and the body's just smarter than us. Like, it doesn't need, nothing in nutrition needs to be complicated, is what I've found. Anytime someone says something to me that sounds bullshit, I generally think it is. Just keep it simple, like get enough total daily protein in. Probably makes sense to get some after training, and it makes sense to split it, because why would I want 100 grams in one serving? That's just a lot of, I'm eating food, not protein. That's a lot of, it's really satiating food in one go. It just doesn't make sense. So if you just keep it simple that way, you'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you were talking about like the body being smart. And I think we may have touched on this last time, but I still find it fascinating whereby, let's say, before I go to the gym now, I'll have like 2 squares bars and then like a fucking carb drink pretty much before I go. And I feel like fine. Do you know what I mean? There's no, if I had those 2 square bars and a carb drink and sat on my ass and watched Netflix, I know like I'd feel like my head, like the blood sugar rush or whatever, like it's too much, right?
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating. Like, I don't know if you know anything about this or any studies. Like, it's almost like that anticipatory response. The body knows what we're about to do something, so it doesn't make you feel like shit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, that is a thing, anticipatory rise, really. And like carbohydrates are going to be your main fuel source during the gym session, especially if we're doing like Hyrox training and it's getting above 75, 90 minutes, then it's going to be the fuel source. Because you think about your typical sets in the gym, they're going to be, if you're doing 3 sets of 12, it's probably going to take you 45 to 90 seconds. That's that middle energy system that we talked about. Carbs are going to be the predominant source. But if you're going into the gym carb-adapted, your liver glycogen, muscle glycogen's full, you probably don't really need to take anything within a workout. They're actually, someone was saying the other day, I was listening to, he's a lecturer in sports science. I like him, actually. I'll send you the link to his stuff. He's good. And he was saying, like, even in a half marathon, if you're doing a half marathon sub 90 minutes, you don't really need to take on carbs, because your body has that much in it, providing you're going in carb adapted. A lot of the time we just take it because it's that perceived feeling, and like the brain obviously relies on glucose for its fuel source. I don't know if it's just like psychological, but obviously most marathon runners, half marathons, do take more than that, so they do take more than 90 minutes. So so was that your original question? There, I always go off on a tangent then.
My question was, I was just talking about, it was more of a comment on like like how clever the body is, where it's almost like it knows, oh, we've taken on a lot of fucking glucose here, but like it feels like my blood sugar is more stable when I'm about to exercise versus sitting on my ass.
All right, that's good. We're using it out where you're going to have that increase in heart rate.
Yeah.
But it's going to be starting to transport to the working muscles, isn't it? So yeah, it makes sense.
And to be fair, like most of the time, like I'm not having all them carbs beforehand because I feel like I need it. I'm just trying to hit the number for the day. So of course, if I have processed carbs, it's much more easy. But do I want to eat do I want to eat those 2 square bars when I'm sat here talking to you, or would I rather do it or just before I work out, because it like, at least I feel like I'm using it. Yeah.
No, definitely. That's a big topic. Like, people are so anti-processed foods, aren't they? But it's so hard to hit your daily calorie amount, and if you don't use them at all, it's just when you use them is important. So like your body is screaming out for quick like replenishment of muscle glycogen post-workout. So it's a good opportunity to get some simple sugars in there. But majority of your day, hence the 80-20 rule, should be unprocessed whole foods, complex carbohydrates that are slow releasing. But around your training, we can use those because they're quick to digest, they're less usually of a gut irritant, aren't they? And they're hyperpalatable, so they're easy to eat, which is always great. So that they can be a really useful tool. Like I sent you over that link to the sports dietitian, didn't I, on Instagram, she's great. I love her stuff. She just takes it back to basics, really. And like, there's no harm in processed foods, providing we're actually using them for exercise. But majority of your diet still needs to be unprocessed, and I think that should just be common sense, really. It doesn't need to be demonized, kind of thing. We've talked about before as well, like the word like healthy, haven't we, with like processed foods and stuff like that. Is it healthy to eat them? Is it healthy to eat 4,000 calories, stuff like that? We've talked about that in the past, and like it's a really fascinating conversation, because like what is healthy? How do we measure health? Like, you could go get your blood work done, look at your LDL cholesterol, look at cholesterol in itself, look at HbA1c, blood glucose, insulin sensitivity. You can do all that, and we could see if they're changing. Like, the stuff that we can see with the naked eye is like, how are you sleeping? How's your gut? How are you feeling? What are your body measures doing? Are you gaining shit tons of body fat? If you're not, and you're exercising regularly, you're probably okay. And like we when we talk about nutrition, we have certain rules we like to follow. So if you were just eating loads and loads of sugar, refined sugar, that would be a big red flag. You get that constant insulin spike, which is a natural response to the body. But if you were doing that in periods when you're not exercising, that doesn't really make sense. So if we're going to get sugar, we'd get it that comes in a fibrous form, i.e. fruit, vegetables, that kind of thing, where it's got vitamins and minerals as well. So if your 4,000 calorie diet contains fiber, plenty of fiber, that's going to offset insulin spikes. So the fiber guidelines are 30 grams, aren't they? Like, government guidelines 30. But I don't think there's an upper ceiling to it. I think just keep building. As long as your gut can tolerate it. There's that class study that came out. There was every 10 grams more fiber you have, you decrease your risk of death by 10%. Like, getting the fiber in does that. Other things we talked about before is like your saturated fats. Like, you're having 4,000 calories, but we always say to each other, like, what's your saturated fat for the day? Is it less than 30 grams, which is government guidance? Yeah, so you're getting lots of poly and unsaturated fats into your diet, like your nuts, seeds, lean meats, that kind of thing, avocados. That's bulking your diet. You're not filling it with pastries and cakes and pizzas and donuts. So you are eating 4,000 calories, but we're ticking the fiber box. We're timing your processed foods around training, saturated fats low, plenty of protein, unsaturated fats. Like, for me, that is healthy. If you're becoming a fat bastard, then we'd have to change things. Or if you felt changes in your health, you have to go get your bloods done, stuff like that, wouldn't you? But I don't see any issues. Yeah, so I was a bit of a tirade.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, one of the things that's interesting about this higher metabolism or usage of carbohydrates, whatever you want to call it, like you hear sometimes having bigger muscles is a good protector for like diabetes or even Alzheimer's because they're a bit of a dump for glucose. Because if you eat a lot of glucose or whatever, it was looking for somewhere to put it. And I don't know whether this is the same thing, but when I went away a few weeks ago with my family, and I did my best to track where I could, and obviously I was eating pizza and all sorts of shite, and I'm using GPT to estimate the calories or whatever and put it in.
Yeah.
I would imagine, given what I ate that weekend, most people there would, if they'd have checked themselves on the scales and gone back on the Monday, they'd probably put on a bit of weight. And what I found was fascinating is I lost weight that weekend, despite eating pizza and fried chicken and fucking desserts and everything. I was like, oh, huh. And it was like, that's interesting. That's a useful thing to be so adapted to the larger calories or whatever. Because when you go away or go on holiday, you kind of like you end up eating a load of shit and actually lost weight, which is a fascinating like side effect.
Definitely. I think that's the real plus point of being on higher calories and being used to it. Like if you're on 1,600 calories a day, like, and you were desperate to lose, which so many people just get stuck in that cycle of low calories. If you have big days like that, you can't recover from it. Whereas you eat big every day, and it makes that has less of a negative effect, doesn't it? So like you probably find that you might have just had a similar amount of calories, maybe even less calories than you were at home, because you probably weren't, you normally think quite a lot about what you're eating, and you're constantly thinking about like my training, I need to make sure I'm fueled for this. Whereas over there, you're probably just switched off and relaxed. Normally you take on more carbohydrates, and obviously that binds to water, so then you end up the scale weight going up. But there are a lot of factors that affect the scales. Like it might be sleep. You might have just been away with your family and just been content, like had a really chilled time, slept loads more than normal, all your work stress had buggered off. Like that all plays a role with the scales. You might have just been going out for loads more steps because you're at family walks or whatever. So scales are affected by multiple things really. But what would be good is that you went away and didn't, your waist circumference measures didn't go up crazy because you are adapted to that higher calorie diet, which is always nice. But similarly, what I always say to people is like, it takes a very long time to get in shape. You don't just get out of shape in a day or 2 days. That also takes weeks. So like, there isn't just that, oh, I've ruined it after 2 days away. It's not how it works. Just reflect on where you could have maybe improved next time you go away. If you did, not saying you did negatively, but if they did, and then just get straight back to it. Like, don't punish yourself by going out and running a marathon, and then don't just think, oh, fuck it, I'm not even going to bother anymore. Just get back to it. Hit your daily steps, go to the gym, hit your protein, eat well, the usual crap, and you'll be fine. Like, you don't have to stress about it too much, because give yourself a few days and you'll feel great again.
Yeah. And I think like when it comes to like discipline and balance and stuff like that, one of the things I've noticed, just in my case, is like, actually, me going away with my family and eating a lot of pizza and chicken is actually a form of moderation, whereas for most people, it's kind of the other way around.
Yeah,
because like you say, it's like just kind of getting out of the head for a minute and just fucking enjoying life or whatever.
God, yeah.
It's something like, to be honest, I'm not. That's the thing I'm the worst at. Is the like I'm like I can do the recovery, I can go to the sauna, I can do all that form of recovery and stuff, but like the real kind of just like, like everything just kind of coming down, like, is definitely something that I would like to improve on. But I find that a lot of it is not dependent on, like, a lot of it you can't do on your own. So like the sauna and everything, I can just Jason my fucking way through everything and not have to depend on anyone. But those sort of like real nice moments when you're with your family and stuff, that depends on you having plans with people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and that's why, like, yeah, the social aspect has got to come into it when it comes to like recovery and like an all-round thing.
Yeah, that's why I think that the CrossFit gyms and the Hyrox gyms have taken off as well, because of that community element you do. It's not just about going to the gym to improve your physique and performance. There is that social side of things that's really, really important, just to the mental health side of things, being around like-minded people. And same with your family. I went away on a canal boat holiday last week. Like, you don't see them as much as you should do anymore. And it's just nice to spend those moments with them, because they're the people that you truly care about, truly care about like what you're doing and like how you are and stuff like that. So it's important that you do those things, even though they're not as often as they should be, but you take time to appreciate those moments. Like, I'm really bad for it. Like, I go away and I struggle to switch off. I work, get up at 5, 6, do 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm always on my phone. But I really should just text people just saying, I'm away now. Like, I know you're on plan. Texting me on Thursday rather than Monday to Wednesday. And everyone would be like, yeah, not asked. That's absolutely fine. But in my head, I'm like, oh no, I've got to check in. But people are completely understanding of how time is precious, aren't they?
Agreed. And yeah, and I would be fine. But like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know you're away. Like, just get back to me on Monday, and then you're straight back.
I help it. Like, I do love what I do.
Yeah.
I do need to get better at just like switching off, and like probably just getting better at like, because a lot of my working week is like check-ins, and then updating plans for the following week. Like, I feel like that's where like automotive, like an AI stuff could come in and just help me write the next week, and then I can just spend more time on the human and deal, because it's humans. That's the main thing of my job, is dealing. Like, I like to think I write a good training program that's going to get to where they want to be, but it's that human element of like, people just want to quit. Like, you do that. You want to quit. It's hard. It's not easy. So it's like, I need to be there for them when they need me, and I like to spend more time on that side of things. And then it's just like better time management, really.
It's an interesting segue. I know we've not got long left, but what do you think about like AI and how it's changing the space?
I like AI. Like, someone said to me the other day, like, what professions are going to be like eradicated because of AI? And someone was talking about like financial advisors, stuff like that, because you can literally just like, I like to invest in stocks and shares. It's like my second favorite hobby after the gym. And I just screenshot my portfolio that I have and I put it into ChatGPT and say, improve this. And it's so clever. It just
You got good results off that.
Really good, really good. Well, everybody's doing well at the moment because the market's quite bullish, isn't it? But it's logical. It's like, well, Tesla's going to release a robo-taxi in the next few weeks, so that's probably something good to buy into. And this one's investing heavy, so it's like, it gives you justification for it. Similarly, for like a training program, I could say like, write me a strength program, and it could probably do an all right job. Like, but it is still pulling sources from the internet. Which is what people have written, haven't they? So like, I still like to think I can write a more varied training program that's specific to that person's needs. It doesn't understand Jason's needs. How could it? It doesn't know how to improve. Like, you can take pictures and put them in and say, improve this form, but it's not really there yet. But I think it's a good, useful side tool, but it's not going to replace coaching, because it's the human aspect of coaching that's the most important. It's the accountability, the check-ins, dealing with people's questions and hardships, and when they're struggling. AI doesn't know how to do that. It can't problem solve as well. But in terms of like making my life easier with automations, that is, I hate doing that stuff. You can find a way of just like, somebody messages you, it just solves the problems in terms of like onboarding and all that kind of thing, just saving me time. And that's not actually a personal element anyway, then that's really useful tool, definitely.
It's probably like where the personability like actually comes into it, in terms of like building a relationship. Because like you say, like, I could just turn around and go to AI and stuff, but it's like, I actually really value building a relationship with someone via, do you know what I mean? Like, it's nice. It gives your life a little bit of richness. And like, do you know what I mean? Like, I worked with Matty for such a long time, and me and him are like good mates now. It's really nice to sort of have that. And I'm sure that's a nice part of what you do. I didn't prep you for this, so you'll fucking hate me. But I've got a little bit of a thing where I'm finishing with now. So if you could only have 5 habits to do for the rest of your life, ideally to cover like all aspects of your life, if you could only pick 5, what would they be and why?
5 habits. I feel like I did this on my story not too
Did
long
you?
ago. Like 5 daily habits that I should tick off.
5 daily habits of, yeah. So if you like, because some people will be like, oh, like, gratitude and stuff like this. I'm like, no. Like, you've only got 5 to do everything. So, do you know what I mean? Like, it has to involve like work and spouse and whatever. Like I said, I gave you no advance notice of this. So,
Yeah. I think, like, if we're talking about spouse, I'm like, I always get told I'm emotionally dead. So, like, one of the, I definitely need to, one of the main things would just be making sure, like, I heard a post the other day, and it was like, if you ever think something positive about somebody, tell them, tell them they need to know. So a big one for me, habit-wise, like, if I think, like someone's done something really nice for me, or they look great or whatever, like, tell them, like, that would be a big one for me, like, to give people that feedback that's in there. I'm just not the type of person that naturally shows it. So that would be one, especially to do with like relationships, family, friends.
that's a good one.
I train as often as I can. Like, exercise is a big part of my life. I have to do that. I feel grumpy if I don't tick that off, really. Crikey. The ones that come into my head are all fitness related because I'm boring.
So you got your fitness, you got your spouse. What about like work? One thing.
Work-wise, it'd be just making sure that I provide the most high-quality program that I can to people, like committing each day to just improving that person's life, really, whatever I can do. And then on a subside of that, I'd be making sure that I'm always thinking of ways of developing the business, like never being happy, sat still. So I always you probably use ChatGPT quite a lot, like what areas of my online coaching business can I improve, just to get ideas. So probably just making sure, like, for growth and development, I'm pushing that on. And then on the nutrition one, the one that I've been doing at the moment that I've been quite enjoying is like the fiber side of things, and then nutrition for health. So I'd be looking, like, I like that 5 color thing. It's quite popular at the moment, like 5 colors on your plate. I never eat fruit and veg, really. I'm like a child. I don't like the taste of it. I just eat it to not die in the future, hopefully. So it'd just be looking to, because my diet is crap. Like, I think I'd have a class rig if I didn't eat like a child. Like, I train 13 times a week and eat pathetically. Like, last night I had
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. I just need to tidy it up. Do you know what it is that gets me? We have a boys' night every Thursday, and we go around to one of the houses, watch film, chat shit, play golf, something like that, and then we get a takeaway. And I tracked it the other day, and the day was about 5,500 calories. I was like, that is hard to come back from. That's what's ruined for me. So just improving my diet quality, so I can also live the lives of my clients who I'm saying keep your low saturated. I reckon I had about 100 grams of saturated fat last night, so need to that kind of thing. It'd be the spouse side of things. It'd be checking in with like clients and improving their day-to-day lives, and that pushing the business on further, looking to maximize my time in the gym, and then improving my diet quality would be probably 5 habits for me.
All right, love it. All right, mate. Well, we will wrap up now because I know you got to go. Any goals, anything on the horizon that...
Yes. What have I got next? I've got a CrossFit comp called Trinity next weekend. That's like a 2-day comp. It's got like a swim, running, Olympic lifting. That's quite cool. Quite a varied one.
Nice.
I think after that, maybe another couple of CrossFit comps, but then I've got Manchester half marathons. We need to get my ass running again. Then that'll tie in quite nicely with Hyrox Dublin in November with Les. I think that's me maybe done. I feel like I'm missing one, but I think that's mainly me done for the year. And then I like to have something like every 2 or 3 months, just something to keep me training. That's a big part for me. Like I always say to people, just get something booked. It'll dial your focus in. It's not the end point. It's just making sure you train. That's the main thing. It's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah, mate.
That's me. It's sorted.
Love it. Thank you so much. And where should people go if they want to check out your stuff?
Probably Instagram and TikTok. Instagram is at Paddy Maher, which is M-A-H-E-R. It's an Irish name. And then S and C. It's like strength and conditioning, S and C. So at Paddy Maher, S and C. TikTok, this is cringy. I don't know why I call myself this. I call myself the Ginger PT when I first started it. help. But yeah, Ginger PT on there, and that's probably the main places, really.
All right, cool. Yeah, this has been cool and well overdue, mate. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one. Hey guys, it's me. Just a quick one before you get going. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, you can check out links to my guests via the episode description below. And a reminder to claim your free VIP pass month at InDeep. Go to indeep.com/podcast. That's INDIIP.com/podcast. If you're looking to improve your life and build habits, I really think you're going to love this tool. All links are in the episode description. Thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.